On today's show, a wild comeback win for the Hawks, down by 22 points with 10 minutes to go. Not a problem for this Hawks team that's rolling right now. 5 straight wins, a perfect West Coast trip, and we'll get into all that and more coming up.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2103 of the Locked On Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you deep into the night here on a Sunday evening into Monday. And today's show is sponsored by the folks at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And we'll be diving in today to what became a very memorable win for the Hawks, 124-122 on the road in Phoenix. Their 5th consecutive win, a perfect 4-0 road trip, and that's very, very rare in any circles, in particular Hawks circles, to go 4-0 on a West Coast trip. Not something that you see regularly around this team. And now the Hawks are 9-5 on the season. That's still early. It's nothing crazy, but in a weird stat, the Hawks are now 4 games over 500 for the first time since they were 10-6 back in November of 2022. So it's been 3 years since the Hawks had a record like this. And yes, it's early, but they are playing well. And this is a very, very fun time to be following the Hawks. The vibes are really good. Even as I'm recording this podcast right now, I'm seeing stuff roll in from fans, even from players. I saw Trey tweeted earlier. Lots of just like upbeat vibes about this team right now. And that's easy to do when you win in this kind of fashion. Again, down by 22 points with 10 minutes remaining. In fact, it was a roller coaster of a game from start to finish. And if you're new to the podcast, what we do on these post-game shows is kind of take you through all of my observations, but also just kind of the game flow and big picture. They're up by 13 in the first half. The Hawks were playing pretty well. Got some help from Phoenix not making a lot of shots in the first half for sure. Then kind of a weird letdown at the end of the first half, go into halftime down by 1. And then they go down by 22 with 10 minutes to go in the game after they allowed a huge run by Phoenix to end the third quarter. The Hawks, really, that was their worst stretch of basketball in quite some time, to be honest. And then they erased it with a 20-0 run. In the middle of that, Zaccharie Risacher gets hurt in scary fashion. Hopefully he's going to be okay. He didn't get up, left the game. And the Hawks credited, multiple Hawks post-game credited that with a little bit of inspiration. Not that they wanted Zach to get hurt, obviously, but just like, hey, let's get it together and kind of win this one for Zach a little bit. And that worked. Whatever happened there worked. And then they got the lead down to 1, but it was never a runaway. Like, this is a 3-point game or less in either direction for the last 3.5 minutes of the game, and it was never comfortable, even to the very, very end. I got to say, shout out to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, had his kind of welcome to Atlanta moment. I know I have seen some, not necessarily negative, but more like mixed reactions to Alexander-Walker's early season for Atlanta. I think he's been quite good, to be honest with you, but like there were some times he's not been the most efficient shooter, etc. I know he's a new guy, but he was fantastic in this game. 16 points in the fourth quarter. He was the hero for me down the stretch in this one. But, heroes all around for Atlanta. And by the way, Elias Sports, who does this, they do a great job, getting all these stats and stuff out there. They had this as the biggest comeback for the Hawks in the final 10 minutes of a game since at least 97-98. So 22 points down with 10 minutes to go. Has not happened for the Hawks in at least 25, 26, 27 years. That's crazy stuff in itself. And, obviously you can't rely on that. I think everyone in that locker room would tell you they don't want to be down by 22 points with 10 minutes to go. But occasionally you got to have a big comeback. And the Hawks haven't had a ton of those this year, haven't had to have a lot of those positively for Atlanta. But getting that run here and winning it on the road when you should have, in theory, some tired legs after a long road trip, a very, very impressive night at the office for Atlanta. Even if the third quarter was one to forget, the fourth quarter was certainly enough to erase that from everyone's memory. Coming into the night, by the way, our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook had this game as basically a coin flip, which ended up being exactly right. This game was basically a coin flip all the way through. It wasn't steady as a coin flip, but given that it was in Phoenix, they had some injuries too. Nothing quite as big as Trae Young. And by the way, Porzingis also missed this game for Atlanta as well. But as far as how this game unfolded, for me, my takeaways basketball-wise, beyond just like the incredible energy of this kind of win for Atlanta, is I have so many things to get to. So offensively, Interesting game. Like they shot 74% on twos in this game, including 10 of 15 on floater range shots. That's crazy, crazy good for Atlanta. They had 3 guys score 25 points or more, and that's Alexander-Walker, Okongwu, and Johnson. They moved the ball well, but they also had some possession battle issues. So they had 17 turnovers on offense. That's not disastrous in a fast-paced game, but not great. 9 offensive rebounds in the entire game. That's not good either. In fact, 3 of those 9 came from Dyson Daniels by himself in the fourth quarter, where he was the only one that got a fourth quarter rebound on the glass. They were big ones, so they definitely picked them out well in the game, but it was not always the best. In fact, overall, the Hawks lost the possession game by 10 and still won the game. Now, that's not impossible. It happens sometimes, but that means basically, if you don't know this, the Suns took 10 more shooting possessions, so a combination of field goal attempts and free throw attempts, than the Hawks did. That is not a good formula. Generally, you don't want to have that kind of gap, because while you could overcome it, it requires you to shoot a lot better than your opponent to do that. Obviously, the Hawks did that in this game enough to have a 2-point win. But even within the game, the importance of the possession battle can shine right through. So, for example, and I tweeted this in real time, so people could see this if they were following me on social media, either on Twitter or on Blue Sky. But early in the fourth quarter, with like 10 minutes to go, basically, the Hawks were minus 18 in the possession game. The Suns had taken 18 more shooting possessions than the Hawks. That is a disastrous margin for 3 quarters of basketball. And unsurprisingly, the Hawks were down by a lot at that point in time. It's really hard to overcome that. But then in the last 10 minutes, yes, the Hawks shot the ball well. Yes, there were lots of heroics, but they also took 8 more shots than the Suns did in a 10-minute period. And that's not the whole reason why they came back, but being minus 18 and minus 10 in the possession game is a big gap, and it kind of just underscores a little bit. It's not always that clean, to be very fair, but when the Hawks were not giving away possessions, they were having a lot of success in this game, and that was certainly the case. Obviously, you have to shoot the ball really well to overcome a 22-point margin in 10 minutes. That goes without saying, and the Hawks shot 64% of the field in the fourth quarter. Even with some misses early on, they were like 70% in that comeback, but they finally started to win on the margins as well. And that's a very, very key factor in winning any game most of the time. Now, defensively, it was a weird game, I would say. Overall, it wasn't good by the actual numbers. Like, they allowed 1.21 points per possession to the Suns. That's not very good, in particular because Phoenix only shot 10 of 30 from 3. So they didn't shoot well, and you still give up a lot of points on an efficiency basis. Not what you want. The biggest area of weakness was the defensive rebounding, which was quite bad again. It was better, though, in the fourth quarter, which again goes to the possession battle. But early on, it was kind of disastrous. Turnovers, they were dead even, but the Hawks did a great job in turning over the Suns and turning that into points. 17 takeaways, which is the same amount of giveaways they had, but they scored 29 points on the 17 takeaways in this game. That's a great, great ratio, and that leads to success. I thought there were times in the first half in particular, and also in the fourth quarter in particular, where the first shot half-court defense was like truly awesome. Like they were really, I would say, bludgeoning and flummoxing the Suns at times in this game. When it was bad, and the overall product was not the best in the world, but most of that was defensive rebounding. There were some ugly moments, and they got to rebound better, but I think a lot of the gaffes as well. Because they won, I probably won't go as hard on this as I might have normally. The Hawks had a lineup concern that I would point to and have to point to, because it's not only one player's fault, but a microcosm of that was that the Hawks won this game, and Keaton Wallace was minus 25 in 13 minutes. So the Hawks were plus 27 in the other 35 minutes of this game. That's not all on Keaton, but there were some weird small lineups. The 3-guard look that the Hawks occasionally go to didn't really work at all in this game. When the Hawks' real guys, like their best players, were playing, and granted, they were without 2 of their best players in this game. Trae Young and Porzingis are both out, so that they're already a little bit thin. That goes without saying. That's part of this. But they, Nickeil was plus 22. Jalen was plus 21. Dyson, who was even tasked with some lineups that were not great around him, was plus 11. Okongwu, by the way, was really good and was still in the negative because he was playing those lineups that were bad. But big picture, when the Hawks had their guys on the court, when they're not playing their worst lineup, basically, they were able to have clear success the majority of the time. The only time it really got ugly was the third quarter, but there you go. So again, I'll have more details in a second, and I'm sure I will have a lot to cram into this episode because there was so much that happened in this game. But take a second, take a breath. The Hawks winning this game is extremely impressive. We don't have to litigate like whether it was the best win of the season, but certainly is on the short list. It was the most impressive stretch of the season. To be that last 10 minutes, I would say, is their best 10 minutes of the season as far as like impact, stakes, all of that. You don't overcome that kind of deficit that late in the game against a at least somewhat decent opponent in Phoenix, and do that on the road with presumably tired legs. Like, that was a heck of a performance down the stretch. Again, led by Alexander-Walker, but Dyson was awesome in the fourth quarter. Jalen Johnson's going to be I'm sure. I shouldn't say I'm sure. I think Jalen Johnson will be the Eastern Conference Player of the Week this week. He should be. Granted, the league tends to reward guys when they have unbeaten records, and the Hawks went 4-0 this week, and then Jalen has great numbers to go along with that. But it was a total – I mean, Okongwu had back-to-back games where he totaled 59 points and made 11 threes in 2 games. Like, a lot of things are going well for the Hawks, but my overall takeaway would be like, hey, you're playing great basketball. It's resilient, and it's only, we're 14 games in. That's like not that much of a sample compared to the full season, but – given where the vibes have been or not been in the last 3, 4, 5 years, basically since the moment DeJounte Murray arrived, or even before that, like, it's not been like this at any point. So the vibes are good. Great win. More to come. And that's kind of the message that everyone was passing along after the game. But in this moment on a Sunday evening into a Monday, an awesome win. And I think Hawks fans can go into work on Monday morning happy at the result of this one. All right, more to come in a second, including how this game unfolded, plus my player-by-player evaluations and more in just one moment. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win. Not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening. Beating your PR. Beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools. Take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. That's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Basketball is here. Nothing beats being in the arena for the opening games and really any game during the course of a basketball season. Let's be real, though. Buying tickets can actually be a headache sometimes between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and then prices that actually might jump up at the end of the process. Just before you're actually ready to buy the tickets at the end, it's easy to get frustrated sometimes. All you want to do is cheer on your favorite team in person, but that is where the Game Time app comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage in buying tickets. It's the ultimate life hack as well for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I recently used Game Time just looking for a friend of mine, and it could not have been any easier, honestly. I found great seats for them in just minutes. At Game Time, actually, look, my favorite part, honestly, is what you see is what you're actually going to pay with no hidden fees at the end of the checkout process. Plus, you can actually see exactly what the views are going to look like inside the venue from the seats before you even buy the tickets with their in-app seat view feature. Plus, they have zone deals that are absolute game changer as well. You pick the section. At Game Time, they pick these seats for you, and you can save big. You can find NBA tickets for as little as $25 or less. Take the guess. We're going to buy tickets right now for the NBA with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That code is LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, before we dive back into the game itself, I want to encourage you to make Locked On Hawks your first listen each and every day. Check out the show, subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. I appreciate you being here, and please tell a friend about the pod. We'll dive in now to the game unfolding, and it was kind of a mighty start. It was a long time ago, it feels like, but the Hawks were kind of in clay, mired early in this game. Both teams were. They scored 10 total points in 4.5 minutes. It was kind of a slog, and then things picked up quite a bit. The Hawks scored 10 points in a minute and a half. Mid-first quarter, Jalen had a monster tip dunk in that run. Defensively, they were very active and very good on first shot opportunities, but they did allow 9 offensive rebounds in the first 9 minutes of the game. It helped that Phoenix couldn't make a shot to begin the game. So the Suns were 6 of 25 from the field to open the game, including 1 of 11 from 3. And that's why the Hawks were able to have the lead despite not being able to get a rebound, honestly. But rotationally, it was interesting. So no Porzingis, as a reminder, if you missed this game, he was a late scratch with knee soreness. That was a bit of a surprise. I think if the Hawks had thought he might miss the game, they would have called N'Faly Dante up from the G League. They didn't do that. I think it was kind of a surprise to them. Now, Porzingis has now missed 5 of the first 14 games, 2 of those for rest. He's on pace to play 53 games this season. That'd be right in line with his season average of his career. So we'll see how the knee is. I don't know if it's a long-term thing, short-term thing. That's all we know is knee soreness right now. So TBD on that for Tuesday. But they started calling with the 5, as you would expect. Then it was Mo, Gay, and Luke Kennard. Mo was in foul trouble in the whole first half. Then it was a lot of Vit Krejci and Keaton Wallace. And then Ace Newell was the 10th man in this game who played a little bit more than expected because of Mo's foul trouble. I'll just do this now. They played the Keaton Wallace, Vít Krejci, Luke Kennard lineup too much again. That's, if you're a recurring listener to the podcast, you will note that I've said this several times in the last couple of weeks. This time it was even worse, and they played those three guys with Asa Newell and Okongwu, not even with Jalen. Like, I'm on record they should be playing at least one of Dyson or Nickeil all the time, but it was even more egregious late in the first quarter when they played that lineup with Devin Booker on the court. So you had Devin Booker on, and neither of your Devin Booker stoppers on the court. That doesn't make sense on defense. And then on offense, like, I don't understand the theory either. That 5-man lineup early on was -6 in like 4.5 minutes. It didn't go well. I don't really get it, the theory of the case. They did it again in the the third quarter, at least for less time, but it was not my favorite thing. The Hawks were up by 4 at the end of the first quarter, despite Phoenix shooting very, very badly. But because of the possession battle, going back to that one more time, that was why the game was close. The Hawks were up big after they went on a 16-4 run. Jalen hit a 3, Asa hit a 3, and actually a nice block by Vít. Mo had some fouls, but Asa played well in that stretch with good energy. But they went up by 13 late in the first half. Out of a timeout, though, the Suns did score 10 straight points to kind of erase that lead because of some giveaways by the Hawks offense in particular. Quinn lost his challenge trying to get Dyson's third foul taken away. That was a bad challenge. I know why he did it, because he was trying to get Dyson's foul taken away, but still not a great process play. And then the end of the first half will be lost to time now, but it was kind of a disaster by Atlanta. The Suns scored the final 6 points of the half, including 4 points directly because of a flagrant 1 assessed to Jalen for an elbow against Dillon Brooks. Now, I hated that call. I know Hawks fans did too. I hated it, even objectively. Like, I thought it was the wrong call. It had to be a flagrant 1. It was also a big swing on the scoreboard. Again, that gave him 4 points in the final minute. And Atlanta went from up by 13 to down by 1 at halftime, even when Phoenix was 3 of 18 from 3 in the first half, and the Hawks were losing. That was not a good sign, given the possession battle. But they overcame that. Even as Phoenix started to make some shots, like they were always probably going to at some point in the game, the Hawks played better on the margins overall eventually. Now, in the third, Dyson assisted on the first 3 buckets of the game. The second half. They got going a little bit offensively. Both teams shot better, including the Suns. Quinn was pretty livid about the officiating in this game, especially in the third quarter. Dillon Brooks was doing Dillon Brooks stuff really the entire game, which was part of it, I'm sure. But they went to, this is kind of funny, the dreaded Wallace, Krejci, Kennard lineup in the middle of this run by Phoenix, and they only lasted like 40 seconds, and they went back to Dyson, mercifully. But even when Dyson on the court, they also tried this Keaton, Dyson, Mo lineup that offensively probably has no chance to score, honestly. But this is the dark period of the game. The Suns went on a 26-4 run over about 7 minutes in the third quarter to go from the Hawks being up by 4 to being down by 18. Admittedly, Phoenix made a bunch of shots that they hadn't made before that, but they were always going to have some positive, variance back after they missed so many shots in the first half. The Hawks turned it over 6 times in like 7 minutes. That was part of that too. The shot quality declined. The Hawks honestly imploded in the third quarter, like to the point where I thought they were going to lose. I think most people did at that point in time. When you're down by 22, even 18 at the end of the third, is like, all right, this game's not over, but they felt like they were in the big time danger zone. And they were. Like, Phoenix again was up by 22 points with 10 minutes to go. And then the run materialized. So it was an 8-0 run originally, including 5 straight from Risacher. So Risacher hits a 3, going to a timeout. Then he gets a pick 6 steal. The positive was that 8-0 run. The negative was Risacher had a flying dunk on a fast break. He was bumped by Colin Gillespie. He lost his balance in the air, and he landed very, very ugly and hard. And not great by Gillespie to foul him there. I am always trying to protect guys flying around the rim in the NBA. Like, it's a dangerous thing that can happen, and that was not great. It should have been a foul. It wasn't, all those things. But Quinn came out on the court, like, probably inappropriately trying to get somebody to foul to stop the game because they were worried about Risacher, and with good reason, because nobody stopped play. Risacher got up, fortunately, during the timeout, went to the locker room. The Hawks have said it's a left hip contusion. That could be a couple weeks, could be 1 game. We don't really know. The closest analog recently, if you remember, Vít Krejci a couple years ago against Orlando. Was that last year? Can't remember. But had this like really hard fall, similarly, not exactly the same thing, but landed really hard and was out for like 2 weeks. We just don't know. So that's hopefully nothing bad for Zach. It did not look good. I hope he is healed. I'm sure he'll be in some serious pain going tomorrow. Now, I alluded to this already. The Hawks literally credited this multiple times post-game into like firing them up, I guess. That 8-0 run became a 20-0 run. They got 9 consecutive stops. plus technical foul by Dylan Brooks to gain a possession as well. So really 10 straight stops if you do that. The Suns didn't score for like 4.5 minutes, and that was where the game flipped. I mean, obviously you still had to close it out. It was never cruise control from that point forward, but I won't name names. Like I was talking about this game with some people after the game, and it's like, hey, Phoenix kind of crapped the bed a little bit in the fourth quarter. And like, yeah, they did. I mean, I'm intentionally crediting the Hawks for doing a great job, and they did. This is the first time at the 20-minute mark that I mentioned this. Phoenix played like crap in the fourth quarter, which is part of the deal. You have to have that. When you're not by 22 points, it has to be a two-way street. No one team on their own can overcome that. Phoenix did implode, and that the big thing was they couldn't score. They literally didn't score a point for 4.5 minutes. That's how you leave the door open. But the Hawks, to their credit, barged right through with physicality and just threw the door open and left it open the rest of the way. Now, they were down by 6 again briefly after that. Then they scored 7 points on 2 possessions. Nickeil hit a 4-point play, and then Dyson had a 3-point play back-to-back. That was huge. The Hawks finally took the lead again at the 1:16 mark after a dunk by Okongwu that Dyson set up. Dyson, by the way, had 12 assists and was a great, great passer throughout this game. Back and forth from there. I won't go through all of it right now. Dyson, I think, did a good job on Colin Gillespie, who forced a missed. Actually, he almost made it. It bounced like 3 times on the rim. But then Jalen got fouled with the Hawks up by 1 with 23 seconds to go. Phoenix challenged it. They lost the challenge. Jalen makes both. The Hawks, I thought, should have taken Vit Krejci off the court multiple times defensively, and they didn't do that. I did not understand that. They did it finally at the very end for Moguet. But I think Moguet being a defensive ace, that would have been a guy I would have went to at some point in time. The Hawks, though, defended it really well at the end. Devin Booker tried to get a 3. The Hawks defended it really well. They kind of sealed it off. Booker took what they wanted him to take, which was a layup, and the Hawks played the possession game. And there's some danger in that. You got to get the ball in bounds. You're playing without your point guard, for example. But at the same time, they executed it well enough. The Hawks also decided to foul on purpose up by 3 multiple times. I generally like that. Not everyone does. I'm kind of in favor of that. When you're up by 3, especially on the road, it's fine with me. And Phoenix also had no timeouts, which made it a little bit more favorable by the math. After, though, I will say they did not make the defensive subs that I liked. Offensively, though, they did put in Luke Kennard multiple times, which was the right thing to do when Phoenix was having to foul. And then the one danger zone where the Hawks actually got tied up, Okongwu did, with 4 seconds to go, that led to a crucial jump ball with the Hawks up by 1. But fortunately, number one, it was crazy to see that with that late in the game. But it was Okongwu against Devin Booker. So advantage Hawks with the lead as well. Booker tries to steal the tip, and the officials call it, give the ball back to the Hawks. And Nickeil gets fouled, splits them, but the second one was the one you want to miss in some ways. Obviously, you want to make both. And if you miss one, the one you want to miss the second one, because Phoenix, again, no timeouts. So all they had was a heave from like 55 feet. It didn't go in, and the Hawks escaped with a 2-point win. So obviously, I could talk about this all day long, but the Hawks scored 47 points in the fourth quarter. They shot the heck out of the ball, like 70% in the last 10 minutes of the game. They made their free throws all game long. There's 20-24. I think there were 10 of 11 in the fourth quarter. All kinds of like boxes checked. Offensive rebounding. They turned the ball over a little bit less in the fourth quarter than they had in the previous 3. All those things that had to happen happened. Dyson was passing. Nickeil was fantastic in the fourth quarter. Watch that back. He was aggressive, multiple in very, very important drives and finishes from Nickeil, plus the 4-point play, etc. He was awesome. And every little thing had to kind of go right in the last 10 minutes, and they did in this spot for the Hawks. All right, in a second, I'll dive into player-by-player evaluations in this contest, plus a little bit of a look ahead to what is to come, and it's coming up in just one moment. The NBA is here. The best place to get on the mix is FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you have to start missing out the game or just want to ride out the hot hand during the game, they have FanDuel has live bets on everything you can actually possibly imagine, really, including what team is going to be scoring next, comebacks in the fourth quarter like the Hawks won today, and much more. Plus, you can buy your live bets together if you want to in a single parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. And on top of that, they have all kinds of bet types that you can think of, from point spreads to over-unders, money lines, game props, player props, future bets, and so much more. They cover the entire sports range that you might love as well, including the NBA, which we talk about all the time on this podcast. Plus, they have the NFL, college football, college basketball. They have baseball, hockey, soccer, both domestic and international leagues, golf, tennis, soccer. Sorry, I already said soccer, NASCAR, F1, boxing, MMA, and so much more. Plus, FanDuel is really easy to use as well. And they're fast to pay out when you win at FanDuel as well. They keep every game more exciting, especially when your team's back to making that comeback late in the game. And right now, they're giving new customers at FanDuel $300 in bonus bets when you first file a bet wins at FanDuel. The place to go right now is FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Sign up right now and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Have your health or family needs changed lately? Georgia's got you covered. Georgia Access is our state's marketplace for Georgians to compare, apply, and enroll in health insurance plans that offer the best value for their individual needs. Open enrollment is happening now. Visit georgiaaccess.gov today. That's georgiaaccess.gov. Georgia Access, health insurance for Georgia by Georgia. All right, a brief rescue from the Hawks game and a Hawks relevant subject. Quickly, the Pelicans lost again on Sunday. If you are not up to date on this, the Pelicans owe the first-round pick unprotected to the Hawks. This year, they've lost 5 games in a row. They're now 2-11, and they play the Thunder on Monday, so a pretty good chance they might lose again. That's obviously good for the Hawks. I'm following that all year long, not every single day on the podcast, but it's notable to me that the Pelicans are 2-11 and struggling badly, that while it's not fun to root for another team to lose, the Hawks need the Pelicans to lose. So there you go. Anyway, back to the game itself. A lot of positives. Most of them, though, were not the bench. I will say the one guy on the bench who did play well compared to their normal baseline. What I generally do on these player evaluations is to compare players to themselves. Like, obviously, the highs of Jalen Johnson do not match the highs of, Luke Kennard. Different players, for example. Anyway, Asa Newell, I thought, played pretty well. 8 points. He had some rebounding, not rebounding. He had one of rebound. Defensive questions, defensive issues. I think that because Asa, I like Asa a lot, because Asa makes some flash plays. He's a really good athlete. He's been making shots, which is very, very helpful. People overlook the defense. The defense is definitely a work in progress, but he was, again, like I said, one of the only guys who played well on the bench. 8 points, +4, 9 minutes. He played a little bit more than he was going to. He would have got in the game anyway. Like Thursday, he got in a little bit without Porzingis. I think on any night where someone in the front court is out, you probably will see Asa for a stint or two. But when the game was in the balance in the second half, he was not playing. And that was probably the right decision. But I thought Asa gave them good minutes in his 9 minutes tonight. The opposite of that is Keaton Wallace. Now, I feel bad. I like Keaton. I always have to say that. It's not personal. I'm not picking on Keaton. He was -25 in a 2-point win. That is not all on him by any means, although he did struggle in this game. 13 minutes for Keaton. Took two shaky shots. Did make a 3 in this game. Defensively, not his best effort. I think the lineup is doing him no favors. Playing him with Luke and Beat doesn't make sense at all. I feel bad, but I just wouldn't play Keaton. I think that as long as you have as long as you have both Nickeil and Dyson available, and Kennard and Krejci, if those 4 guys are available, you don't need to play Keaton. I don't think you do. Now, if somebody's out, yeah, Keaton's got to play, and that makes a lot of sense. That's the role he should be in. But tonight, even in the second half, like he played a stint late, and I was like, why is he in the game? Anyway, not his best work, even if -25 is not necessarily on him by any means. Veet was kind of due for some regression. He was 1 of 5 from 3. That was to be expected. He had gone 17 of 23 from 3 in the previous 3 games. I was listening to Brian Oliver on the FanDuel broadcast, and he mentioned that he was talking to Veet before the game. Maybe it was Matt Weiner, one of them, and basically asking Veet when the last time was that he was this hot. And Veet said literally never in his life has he ever been this hot coming into the game, which is true. He's been just out of his mind, and he was 1 of 5 from 3 in this game. It happens. Defensively, hit and miss. Had a nice block in the first half, but had some breakdowns as well. He was only -1. That I think he was actually worse than that, to be honest with you. Moge had a rough night, for example, like -16 in 10 minutes. Didn't score. Did have 3 fouls quickly, which probably threw things off a little bit. But had a turnover, missed both shots. Like it was Mo's worst game of the season, probably. Mo's been great, so I'm not picking on Mo. Just he had a rough night, and I think it might have just because the fouls got him out of sorts a little bit early on. And Kennard was quiet as well. Only took 2 shots, missed them both. I think Luke and Keaton just don't complement each other very well. That's part of this as well. But he was -4. Yeah, Luke will have better nights as well. So the bench was just overall kind of a black hole in this game, but the stars were good. So that was very helpful. Risacher played the least. Part of that was the injury, but I think he probably would have played the least anyway. But 15 points for Risacher, 26 minutes, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. There was a stretch in the first half where he sat for like 10 minutes straight, and I couldn't believe it. I don't know why that happens, but it does too often in my opinion. But I thought Zach played well defensively in this one, had the 2 steals, was active, was rangy, and everyone is now holding their breath that he is okay in the near future after that scary fall in the second half. Dyson Daniels, 11 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 steals for Dyson, +11, 5 on 2s, 0-1 from 3. I had somebody in my mentions talking about how Dyson was struggling, and I was like, I don't know what game you're watching, to be honest. Like, he wasn't scoring until the fourth quarter. I guess that's probably why. The whole world does not revolve around points individually, but I thought Dyson was like quite good in this game. Like, he didn't do a lot as a scorer, but the passing was dynamic. The defense is always awesome. He was quite good, I thought, in this game. And then the 3 guys who scored big in this game were Okongwu, Nickeil, and Johnson. Okongwu 27 points to actually lead all scorers for Atlanta. 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. My only beef with Okongwu was the rebounding in this game. Not his best effort there, but the passing was good. Their finishing around the rim was good. He was 6 of 6 from the field and made all 6 free throws as well. His only misses came from 3, which is also fine. Took 9 threes again. He is absolutely launching, and I love to see that. Okongwu being this kind of shooter is crazy, but it's happening, and I thought he was very, very good on the whole outside of the rebounding in this game. And then again, Jalen and Nickeil were both plus 21 or better, and they deserved it. Jalen, I think, is going to be, again, player of the week in the East. 25, 10, and 7 for Jalen. Did 5 turnovers, but other than that, was very, very good. He was 7 of 10 on 2s, 2 of 3 on 3s. Made his free throws in the game. Jalen's been awesome. He's playing like an all-star. That's not a surprise. I picked him to make the all-star team before the season started. So I think he's going to be there. The stats tell the story. Defensively, he's been up and down this year, but the productivity, the passing, the rebounding, it's all been there in recent days. And then Nickeil was the hero on this one for me. 16 points in the fourth quarter, 26 in the game, 4 assists, 2 steals, plus 22. He was 6 of 9 on 2, 3 of 9 from 3, 7 free throw attempts, made 5 of them. Defensively was really good on Booker, and Gillespie even. I thought Nickeil was really good. I've kind of been befuddled about people being negative about Nickeil early on the season. My good friend Kevin Schnarr pointed this out. Nickeil averaged 9 points a game in Minnesota last season. And this year he's averaging almost 18 points per game with the Hawks. That might come down a little bit, especially as Trey comes back. He might just have the ball less. But Nickeil has been really, really, really good on offense and defense, to be honest with you. Yeah, he might be a little bit more over-indexed to the shooting versus the passing. His passing is very ordinary for a guard. He's not a great passer. But the combination of getting to the rim, which he's done, I think, much more than advertised, and then getting up threes and then defending, he's been awesome. And it's not hard to see why people in Minnesota loved Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I enjoy his work quite a bit. So that's all I have on today. But the Hawks do have a big game on Tuesday. They will be hosting the Pistons. The Pistons have been scorching hot in recent days. I believe they have now won, I want to say it's 9 in a row. Yeah, 9 in a row. They're 11-2 on the season. It's also a weird spot for Detroit, which is actually good for Atlanta. So usually, as I always say on the pod, the first game after a long West Coast trip is often really treacherous, which doesn't make sense a lot because you're back at home. But it's kind of like the jet lag and getting going after that kind of long trip is a challenge. This time it's a little bit leveled off because the Pistons play Monday night in Detroit, so they have to play and then travel. And yes, they're playing the 1-12 Pacers, so they will probably win the game. But they also have injury issues, like Kay Cunningham's banged up right now, for example. It's not a huge setup for the Hawks, but certainly it's a more favorable one than you might think. Also, as a PSA, it was supposed to be an NBC game on Tuesday. So if you have an old schedule, it was an 8 o'clock game. Now it's a 7:30 game, and it's back to local TV. NBC pulled it, which looks funny now because the Hawks just won 5 games in a row, and the Pistons are 11-2. But they pulled that game, so it's back to local, 7:30, which means 7:40 in real terms. Tip-off in Atlanta. I'll be in the building, full coverage to come, but that's a big one on Tuesday. I mean, it already was, and now even more so, especially if Detroit wins on Monday. It'll be even more national attention to maybe the 2 hottest teams in the East at that point in time. All right, everybody, that's all I have on today's podcast. This could have been an hour-long show on this one game because there was a lot going on today. But in total, an awesome win for the Hawks. Really was 5 in a row, 4 in a road trip, and good vibes all around. So please stay tuned. Please subscribe to Locked On Hawks anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Follow the show on Twitter/X at Locked On Hawks. Follow me there at BT Rowland. Follow me on Blue Sky if you want to at BT Rowland. And then also my non-podcast coverage of the Hawks can be found at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right, everybody, enjoy your Monday, and we'll see you all next time.